Okay, I'm going to call this meeting to order. Roll call, please, Danielle.
President Rios,
Present.
Vice President Mendoza,
Present.
Board Clerk Yu,
Yes.
Board Member Dr. Apodaca,
Here.
Board Member La, Board Member Nishi,
Present.
Board Member Say.
Present.
Thank you.
I'm unmuted. I'm here now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, we welcome public comments. Comments submitted will be presented during the public comments section, which is limited to 1 hour, and each speaker to one presentation of 5 minutes, unless the board wishes to waive the time limit. Those who have a group concern are encouraged to select a spokesperson to address the board. Comments submitted regarding a specific agenda item will be presented following the staff comments and prior to the board's discussion or taking action. At this time, I'd like to call on Board Member Say to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Would you please all stand up? And right hand to your heart. Let's begin. I pledge allegiance
Allegiance
to the flag
to the flag
of the United
of the
States of
United States of
America
America
and
to
to the
the
republic
republic
for
which
which it stands,
stands one nation
under God,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty and
and just for all.
justice for all.
Justice.
Thank you. You may sit.
Thank you so much, Board Member Say. At this time, I'd like to call on, we're going to do our presentation, Spotlight on Teaching and Learning. Dr. Valencia Mayfield, Assistant Superintendent of Academic Services. Dr. Mayfield.
Thank you. Good evening, Board President, Dr. Overreals, members of the board, and Dr. Sue. I'm going to share my screen. If you'll give me a minute, please. The title of tonight's presentation is about our instructional model. And I'd like to begin by sharing that this is a two-part series. And tonight we're going to really speak about 3 instructional models. The first is our virtual academy, which is the current model that's in existence and has been since the first day of school. And then we're going to talk about 2 hybrid options. Now, we wouldn't pick both hybrid options, but it's important for you and our community to be aware of the hybrid options that we are exploring. The first hybrid option is one that you will be familiar with because it is the hybrid model that we had initially planned to begin the school year with. Hybrid option number 2 is a model that we have not spoken about at all in a public setting. And so tonight we will be speaking on all 3 instructional models. On December the 15th will be part 2 of this series, in which we'll be addressing our preparation for in-person instruction. During the December 15th presentation is when we'll speak specifically about what our preparations has been for ensuring that students and staff have the proper protective equipment, changes that have been happening in the classroom and on campus of our schools and in our facilities, as well as what our compliance COVID plan is and how we would respond when a case occurred, as well as how we would communicate to our public about our status of any COVID cases. Before I proceed, I want to pause for a minute and first thank and acknowledge 2 of our principals. Our principal from Artesia High School, Sergio Garcia, and our principal from Carmelita Middle School, Robert Castillo, because they are also online available to translate this portion of the presentation in Spanish. And so if you're interested in seeing the presentation in Spanish, there's a PowerPoint at the website and there's a number to call for translation. So I will go ahead and proceed from there. And so for our community, we're really hoping that you're able to listen in on both presentations tonight as well as December 15th, so that you can have a very comprehensive understanding of the instructional model that we will most likely proceed with, as well as those plans that are in place to prepare to bring students back on campus. Before we begin, you are aware that we asked our community to complete a survey in which we asked particular questions about our virtual academy and how students were progressing. We were pleased with the number of respondents, with 7,815 of our family members responding to the survey. And if you look across grade levels, that response is pretty evenly distributed across our K through 12th grades. In TK, we only have 181 students currently enrolled. So even 103 response is pretty significant when we look at our TK response level. One of our questions, we asked our family to comment on their experience in the virtual academy. We know that our families would prefer to be back to a traditional pre-COVID status, but that's not the option that's available to any of us at this time. And so as a result, we wanted to get their opinion or to rate their experience in the virtual academy. And we were pleased that 82% of our families said that the virtual academy meets or exceeds their expectation. And 18% indicated that the virtual academy did not meet their expectation. And so we recognize that there's still room for improvement, there's still room for growth. And I would encourage the 18% that are not quite satisfied to please reach out to us and let us know what your experience is and how we can better serve you. Another question on the survey was to ask our community if given a choice. Now, we weren't asking people to make a decision, but we did want to get a sense of where our families were at. So if given a choice, we wanted to know what percentage of our families would want to continue in the virtual academy and what percentage would want to choose a hybrid in-person model. Again, our data indicates that 64% of our families would choose to continue in the hybrid model. To continue in the virtual academy, and 36% would choose a hybrid option. Now, I want to kind of put a pin on this piece of data because in June, we also asked our families on a survey to give us their opinion about the virtual and hybrid options. And at that time, back in June of 2020, 74% of our families were requesting a hybrid and 26% were requesting virtual. So we see that our community and our families have really had a change in their expectation or their interest when we now have 64% wanting to continue virtually and 36% that will be interested in a hybrid model. There are some important facts that we want to point out about the virtual academy before we begin talking tonight about the hybrid options that we are exploring. We want to assure our families that the ABC Virtual Academy will remain an option for the entire school year. So even if we choose to proceed with a hybrid option, families can choose to continue with the hybrid model, with the virtual academy option. We also want to ensure that our families understand that in the virtual academy, it offers our students the maximum amount of live direct teacher instruction. Now, the instructional minutes for both the virtual academy and the hybrid are the same, but the amount of time students are actively live engaging with teachers will differ. And so in the virtual academies where they have the maximum amount of time of live direct teacher instruction, in the virtual academies also where they have the least amount of asynchronous time, where they're being asked to work independently. When the virtual academy is the only option for all students in ABC, it's more likely that students will continue with their current teachers and their current classmates. However, and as you will see later in the presentation, that when a second option becomes available, a hybrid of any type, but when there is two choices, there are implications for both the virtual academy and the hybrid model. We also have to acknowledge that the virtual academy significantly decreases any concerns for class or school isolation or quarantine due to COVID-19. Well, before we can really speak more about the hybrid options that we are considering, it's important that we make sure the community understands what factors are being used to determine if we can actually transition to in-person instruction. Safety first. We would all agree that our priority continues to be safety first. Safety for our students and safety for our staff and our families. And so the decision to transition to in-person instruction would first begin with us really asking ourselves, is it safe to bring students back on campus? Another critical factor that really determines if we can or cannot proceed is the Los Angeles County Department of Public Health. They will actually determine when school can reopen fully for in-person instruction. At the LA County Department of Public Health website, they have a blueprint, and that blueprint identifies multiple tiers. And currently, Los Angeles County is in the purple tier, which indicates that COVID is still widespread. And as a result of that status, as a result of being a district that resides in LA County, we are not able to open and for all students to return fully in person. But we are still preparing in case there is a transition from the purple status to the red status. As we transition now to begin exploring the two hybrid options, there are some key factors that are true regardless of the hybrid option. So regardless of option 1 or option 2, there are 7 key points that I want us to consider. First, it's important for our community to know that while we're in this status of distance learning or our virtual academy, we are continuing to explore different hybrid models. Neighboring districts in Orange County have returned in person. And so we are able to glean from their experiences and learn from them as to what models are working best for their students. Not to say that they will work well for ABC students, but it does give us an opportunity to learn from our neighboring districts. So we are in that state of exploring hybrid models. And tonight you're going to hear about 2 options that we are considering. Every hybrid model has its strengths and its challenges. And so tonight as I'm presenting, I'm going to be really transparent about the implications for either of these hybrid models, because it's important that our community know that these are not perfect options and they both come with their challenges. Number 3 is really important because we're talking about implementing a hybrid model in the middle of the school year. We started school on August the 24th, and to bring in a hybrid model at any point between now and the end of the school year, it's going to be challenging. And there will be disruption for all of our students and our staff. And we'll have to weigh and consider that in making this transition. I also want to point out that starting at the beginning of a school year with a hybrid model is less challenging because our families will make a choice and that's the way they will start the year and continue the year. So to start with a hybrid model is a lot less challenging. Number 5 is also really important, that when we choose our hybrid model, that we really talk about sustainability. I think it's important for us to consider that there is a possibility that in the fall of 2021-22 school year, that we will potentially have to begin the school year with a hybrid option. And so I think it behooves us to choose a hybrid option that can be sustained. And so that we're not asking our students, families, or staff to make another transition come fall of next school year. Number 6, before we ask our families to make a choice, I want to assure you that there will be plenty of opportunity for community input. We don't have dates scheduled yet, but as we near that time, we'll make sure that you're aware of those opportunities to attend community input meetings to share your thoughts about the hybrid models that we are considering. And number 7, I want to assure you that if you want to know which hybrid model ABC has selected, the best source for accurate information is at a board meeting or one of the ABC school district social media platforms. That's the best source to go for your information, your accurate information about the hybrid models we are considering in ABC school district. So let's begin to talk about our hybrid options. And throughout the presentation, I'm going to refer to them as option number 1 and option number 2. Now, as I said earlier, option number 1 is an option that we have talked about publicly in a board meeting, and it is the option that we had initially planned to begin the school year with. So this option should sound very familiar to our families. In this option, students will be assigned a cohort, either cohort A that attends school in person on Monday and Tuesdays, or cohort B that attends school in person on Thursday and Friday. Students are in class 2 days per week, and in this model, students will learn at home asynchronously 3 days per week. Option 2 is a model that we have not discussed in a board meeting. So this is probably your first time hearing about this option. In option 2, students are also assigned to cohorts, cohort A or cohort B. In this model, students attend school in class 2 days per week, and then 2 days per week while at home, they also attend class virtually or online. And then on Wednesday, they are asynchronous. So let's look at the picture to the right. Student in this option would physically go to school 2 days per week. On Wednesday, the student would remain at home and learn asynchronously. And then for 2 other days during the week, the student would physically will stay at home, would remain at home, but would enter the classroom virtually from home. So we're going to now spend the next portion of this presentation really speaking about both options, option 1 and option 2. So let's begin with option 1. Option 1, for the purpose of our conversation, is our 2-day hybrid because it references students coming in person 2 days a week. So implementing option number 1 during the middle of the school year will result in significant changes to the current school program. So this next portion of the presentation, there's a lot of animation. So I am going to encourage you to really watch the presentation so you can see the changes in the slides, what would help to illustrate and explain this option to you. So in option number 1, just imagine, currently all of our ABC teachers are located in one instructional model, the virtual academy. Once the hybrid option number 1 becomes available, we're basically taking our existing teaching staff and splitting them. Some will remain in the virtual academy, and some will be assigned to hybrid option 1. Our teachers will follow the students. So whichever of these models have the largest number of students, then of course we need to make sure that there's enough teaching staff to support that model. So let's answer a couple of questions. The first question, before I go there, let's talk about the implications of having a virtual academy and option number 1. Implication number 1, students in the 2-day hybrid option or the virtual academy are more likely to have different teachers, different classes, and different classmates, meaning that the teachers and classes and classmates that students currently have would potentially change significantly if we were to offer option number 1. In some situations, we only have one teacher who teaches that subject. So for example, at our teacher high school, there's only one welding teacher. At Tessoff Middle School, there's only one band instructor. At Nemis Elementary School, there's only one 2nd grade dual language immersion teacher. And those teachers physically cannot be both hybrid and also virtual. So consequently, if we were to implement option number 1, how students access those classes would change. So now we're going to answer some questions about how option number 1, enrollment, affects the enrollment in the virtual academy. And this is real important for our families to know, because I think that sometimes we think that if we're offered a hybrid, it has no implication for families who choose to remain or continue in the virtual academy. But that's not the case. And I want to be very clear and transparent that once we offer a second option, it does affect the students who are also choosing to remain in the virtual academy. And that's what I'm going to demonstrate for you in the next section of this presentation. So the first question we're going to answer is, what happens if the enrollment in option 1 and the virtual academy are similar? So this picture represents our close to 20,000 students in ABC that all sit in the virtual academy. So let's say that half of them choose the virtual academy and half choose the hybrid. If that were to occur, then 50% of our students will continue with the virtual academy and 50% will move into a 2-day hybrid model. Currently in ABC, every school is an independent, standalone virtual academy. We have 29 independent virtual academies. Our adult school is also a virtual academy. And so technically we have 30 virtual academies operating in ABC. That's important for me to point out, because you're going to see how that can change if the number of students remaining in the virtual academy decreases significantly. But let's move on to our next question. Again, taking our same number of students, and what happens if the enrollment in option number 1 is very low? So again, in this picture, we have the majority of our students choosing to remain in the virtual academy, and a small number, a very low number of students choosing to go into the hybrid. So what happens in this case? In this case, because we have a large number of students choosing to remain in the virtual academy, each school can continue to operate its own virtual academy. But if the number of students who choose the hybrid is so low, then we will not offer a hybrid. Instead, our hybrid model will operate more like childcare. Now, let me explain that further. If the enrollment in our hybrid option 1 is so low that we cannot offer a hybrid model, schools essentially become childcare centers. And what that means is that instead of a student sitting at home accessing a virtual academy, they would physically come to school and access the virtual academy from school. So in a classroom, you could have mixed grade levels. You could have students from grades 4, 5, 6, or students from kindergarten, first and second, or a class of 9th and 10th graders, but they would all be housed in a classroom where they would interact or connect virtually to their classroom teacher. And in that classroom, we'll have a supervising adult, but that supervising adult is not the classroom teacher. Now let's answer our third question. What happens if the enrollment in the option number 1 is very high? So in this model, we're saying that so many families chose the hybrid that the virtual academy enrollment has declined significantly. So the number of families choosing to remain in the virtual academy is so low that we can no longer operate independent virtual academies. Instead, we would establish an elementary academy, a middle school virtual academy, and a high school virtual academy. And because the enrollment in hybrid is so high, we will be able to proceed with our 2-day hybrid model. I'm going to illustrate this even further in upcoming slides. But before I go there, let's continue to have this conversation about low enrollment in the virtual academy. So if you see here in these boxes at our elementary school, each elementary school currently today has its own independent virtual academy, as well as each middle school and each high school. But if our enrollment drops extremely low because so many families choose hybrid, these schools can no longer operate independently, and instead they become district academies. So how would that decision be made? Let me illustrate that for you. We have 4 possible outcomes for each school when we implement hybrid option number 1. So let's look at the first row. Box number 1, students will continue their virtual academy. Just as students went to school today, they will continue their own independent virtual academy. But as showed previously, if the enrollment in the virtual academy declines significantly, schools will no longer be able to operate an independent virtual academy, and instead we will need to create district virtual academies. On the second row, if we have a lot of families that choose the hybrid, then we would proceed with our 2-day hybrid model. But if we don't have enough families to choose a hybrid, we won't offer a hybrid, and instead we will offer childcare during school hours. So let's look at a couple examples. And these are just examples, so we can help further understand this idea. Aloha Elementary has 356 students. That's a fairly small school based on its student enrollment. Let's pretend that 50% of the families choose hybrid and 50% choose virtual. That's about 178 students in each model. So if 178 students choose hybrid, that number is too small to offer a 2-day hybrid, because we would have a combination at every grade level because it's just not enough students to offer a full class. So as a result, Aloha would not offer a hybrid. Instead, Aloha will offer the 178 families who chose hybrid, they would be offered a childcare option, while the 50% that choose to remain virtual potentially is a large enough number to maintain their current virtual academy. Now let's take a look at Stowers Elementary, which is about twice the size of Aloha with 670 students. If 50% of their students chose hybrid and 50% chose virtual, what potentially may happen for the students at Stowers? Well, 50% is 335 students. That is enough students to offer them a 2-day hybrid. We can pretty much offer that and have at least a grade, 1 class or 2 classes per grade level. At 50% virtual, that's still enough students to also maintain their own independent virtual academy. Now in this example, Carver has 618 students, and 80% of their families choose hybrid and only 20% choose to stay virtual. At 80%, that's enough students to offer a 2-day hybrid. But at 20%, that number is too low to maintain an independent hybrid. So in that case, they would move into a district virtual academy. Melbourne at 458 students with 80% choosing hybrid is large enough to have a 2-day hybrid. At 20% virtual, they're too small to maintain that independent virtual and will move into a district virtual academy. So this idea will play out with each school. We would ask the same question: how many families chose hybrid? How many families chose the virtual academy? And you'll see that these boxes quickly are filled. And you'll also see that not the same outcome is true for every school. And also keep in mind that wherever the students are, so are part of the teaching staff. And this is why students will end up with different teachers, different classes, and different classmates. And that district virtual academy box now, those schools would no longer offer their own independent virtual academy. And instead, they would be part of the elementary district-wide academy, the middle school district-wide academy and the high school district-wide academy. Now, before you get all upset and get worried, remember that this is just a simulation to show you what it could be. We have not asked our families to make a decision, and so we don't know this outcome, and we have not even chosen this as our final choice as an option. But I do want you to understand what could potentially happen. Now let's talk about the instructional minutes. I want to assure our families that if they choose a virtual academy or hybrid option number 1, the total number of instructional minutes remain the same. But what's different is how the instructional minutes are allocated. In option number 1, less instructional minutes are allocated for direct instruction and more instructional minutes are allocated for asynchronous learning independently. So here are our 2 schedules. The schedule on the left side is our virtual academy, which our families should be very familiar with. Students have access to live instruction 4 days a week. On the right side with the gold trim is our proposed hybrid option number 1. And in this model, keep in mind, students only attend school in person 2 days a week. 3 days they're home asynchronously. Also notice that once we offer a hybrid option, the times that the start time and end time for schools will change because we also have to provide transportations to families are eligible for transportation. So that's going to affect what time school starts and what time school ends. So let's look at the instructional minutes. The instructional minutes are times in a day when students are with teachers virtually, but there's live instruction. All of our elementary students are in school up to 12:25 p.m. Some of our elementary students continue later in the afternoon. In the hybrid model, we also have our instructional minutes. And when we do the math, students who continue virtually will have a minimum of 680 minutes of weekly live instruction compared to students in the hybrid who will have a minimum of 500 minutes of weekly live instruction. The overall instructional time will remain the same. It's just that in the hybrid, the students will have more time asynchronously, meaning engaged in independent learning. Because remember, in this hybrid model, they are asynchronous for 3 days a week. This is also true for our secondary. In the box to the left with the gray trim, currently, all of our students are in the virtual academy. They're there 4 days a week. Because of our block schedule, they see their teachers or they're with each teacher virtually 2 days a week. To the right is our hybrid option 1, in which students would physically come to school 2 days per week. And because of our block schedule, they'll only see their teacher 1 day a week. So let's look at the instructional minutes for a student who would have 6 periods in the virtual academy, as well as 6 minutes in the hybrid, in the model. So once again, students in the virtual academy have more time of live instruction with their teacher if they continue in the virtual academy compared to a student who would choose the hybrid model. Their weekly live instruction is reduced almost by half. The total number of instructional minutes is the same, but how those instructional minutes are allocated is different. The virtual academy has the maximum number of allocation of live instruction in the use of the instructional minutes. So the message that I want us to understand as we transition from talking about this option is that all students are affected when more than one school option is available. Students, families, and staff will need to make another significant adjustment this school year. So let's now explore option number 2. Now, this is an option that we have not talked about before in a board meeting. So this will be your first time hearing that we are exploring this option. This option offered at some schools that are in person in Orange County. I do want to say that this model also has its challenges. It's less disruptive than option one, but I want to be clear that it's equally challenging when we choose, if we were to choose this option for our students. What option number 2 does is it takes the same number of teachers, and these teachers remain with their students. They have some students online and some students in person. So let's explore option number 2. So in option number 2, if you recall, we said students are still in cohort groups. So here is potentially what cohort A schedule would look like. Cohort A students would be in class, in person, on campus on Monday and Tuesday, asynchronous on Wednesday, and online Thursday and Friday. Now remember, on the days when they're online, they're at home, but they're entering to their classroom virtually. And I'll illustrate that further in an upcoming slide. Cohort B will be online Monday and Tuesday, asynchronous on Wednesday, and in class on Thursday and Friday. But don't forget, we still have our virtual academy students who are online Monday and Tuesday, asynchronous Wednesday, and online Thursday and Friday. So let's play this idea out a little bit further. So here's a teacher. She currently has 32 students in the virtual academy. The 32 students are at home online, and they come to class every day virtually. Number 2, let's look at the same teacher, and let's look at an example of what could potentially happen with her same 32 students. So in option number 2, the teacher's class will consist of students who are in person and online. So let's say that 20 of the students decide to continue in the virtual academy, which is online, and 12 students choose to the hybrid option 2, which means that some days they're in person and some days they're online. Notice the total number of students did not change. And notice that the teacher did not change. So in this model, students are more likely to remain with their class and more likely to remain with the same teacher. So what are the implications of this model? First, take a look at the pictures to the right. Here you see the teacher. She has students sitting in front of her. And then you see the same teacher pointing to her students who are virtually. She's teaching to 2 audiences. One's in front of her and one's online. These students will continue to come to school on Wednesday for asynchronous learning. And these students will be able to access those courses and programs that I talked about earlier when there's only one teacher that teaches that subject area. But there are significant challenges with this model because it significantly changes the delivery of instruction time. A teacher is now dividing her attention across 2 different classroom platforms, a classroom that sits in front of her and a classroom that is online. Clear expectations is important here, that teaching will not be the same in this model, that the instructional experience that our students are having today and have had since August of 24 would not be the same when a teacher is being asked to teach students in front of them as well as kids who are online. And the students who are online would really need to remain focused and engaged during instruction. So while each option has its strengths and challenges, the final decision will be based on the best delivery model that supports student learning. So today, we're not asking our board to make a final decision. Today, we're not asking parents to pick a model. What we're asking you to do is, what we're doing here is bringing to your attention and making you aware of the different hybrid models that we are exploring in ABC. So let's talk a little bit about when we will potentially offer in-person instruction. And I need to go back to this document because, as I said earlier, the Los Angeles County Department of Public Health will determine when schools can reopen fully for in-person instruction. We are currently in the purple zone. So right now, neither of these hybrid options are one that we could implement as long as we are in this purple tier. So I want to talk about the potential opening and what the criteria is in order for us to potentially open in January. And so to the right there, I have the criteria that's established by the Department of Public Health as to when we could potentially open for in-person instruction for all of our students. So first, the county, LA County, must meet the next tier's criteria for 2 consecutive weeks. So what does that mean? That means that LA County would have to transition to the red tier, meaning substantial spread of COVID. And it has to transition to that tier for 2 weeks. Once it gets to that tier, it then has to maintain that position for 2 weeks. That's what criteria 2 says. So when we look at number 1, number 2 together, we're really talking about 4 weeks in the red zone. Now, it's important that I point out that since they have instituted this tiered approach, LA County has been purple. We have yet to make the red tier. So let's look at this in the context of a calendar. January 25th is our anticipated start date for in-person instruction. In order for that to happen, we have to first refer back to the Department of Public Health guidelines. Criteria 1, the county must meet the next tier's criteria for 2 consecutive weeks. And so we're going to just plan backwards as to what would be the start date for that 2 consecutive weeks. So by December the 20th, LA County would have to be in the red tier for us to consider opening on January the 25th. Now, they only look at the next part on Tuesdays. So what that means is that the county must then actually be a substantial red for 2 more weeks, because remember I said it's a total of 4 weeks. So first they have to meet the criteria to be red, and then once they meet that criteria, they actually have to stay red for 2 more weeks. And so by January the 20th, we will know if LA County has been successful at meeting the criteria of being red and then staying red for the next 2 weeks. And then that gets us to our start day of January the 25th. And of course, that means we would have to stay red. So you see, we have a very long road ahead of us before we would even be able to offer to our families any hybrid option. But if we are able to offer a hybrid option, this is a sample of what the transition schedule will look like. First of all, the reason why we're selecting January 25th as a possible option is because it is the end of a grading cycle. And because we recognize that it is possible that students may end up with a different teacher, we felt strongly that we should attempt the transition when a grading period ends or a grading cycle ends, so that both the teacher and the students are starting with a clean slate when it comes to classroom grades. So keep in mind though, the calendar, right? So while we would like to be open on the 25th, we have to be read by December 20th in order to move forward with any of these hybrid options. but potentially teachers would be on campus for about 3 days in which they would be finalizing a classroom prep, professional learning, or staff meetings. We will potentially transition a small cohort group of students to campus or head, a small group to have like their own orientation to school. This may be some of our students who are in special education who have high needs, and we want to make sure that they can be familiar with all the new signage and things that you're going to hear us speak more about at the next December 15th Spotlight on Teaching and Learning. And during these 3 days, all students will be asynchronous, with our first students physically coming to school on Monday, February the 1st, Tuesday, February the 2nd, and then cohort B on Thursday, February the 4th, and Friday, February the 5th. What I want our families to know is that prior to the start of a hybrid model, that you will have the opportunity to attend an information meeting so that you can hear specifically what the hybrid option is going to be offered in ABC. And we want to make sure that you fully understand what that model means and its implication and what all your choices are. So I want to assure our families that we will not ask them to make a decision without first offering information meetings. We will probably survey you again because we do want to keep asking your questions about our progress in the virtual academy and getting the sense as to what our parents are interested in. But please know that a survey is just that, a survey. That when we're ready to ask you to make a decision, we'll make sure there's plenty of opportunities for you to attend meetings and have information first. So we hope to see you at our next Spotlight on Teaching and Learning on December the 15th, where we will speak more about in-person preparation. Hopefully by then we will have more information on the hybrid model that we would like to have our board consider and move forward. We'll also speak about the health and safety guidelines that are being put in place at every school campus. And it's also important that our families are aware of the COVID compliance plans and procedures that are being put in place for all of our schools. And that ends my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. At this time, we'll move on to our communications quarterly update. Scott Smith.
Great. Thank you very much, President Dr. Rios, Vice President Mendoza, Clerk Yu, board members, and cabinet. Thank you for the time this evening. I appreciate bringing this information to you on a quarterly basis. As you well know, communications between the district and our families and the community has never been more important. Since the new year began in July, we've been aggressively communicating with our stakeholders. As we dismissed students from our schools, we began to provide daily community updates, giving families useful and timely information as we moved through the initial stages of the pandemic. When the school year ended, we transitioned this communication to go out weekly and rebranded the look to make it easier to read. The ABC Community Update goes out to families and stakeholders each Thursday evening in both English and Spanish. Part of our regular communications to community included recorded videos of Dr. Sue and I having conversations where we covered a bunch of timely topics. We shared 4 of these videos, and nearly 9,000 views have resulted from those videos on the ABC Stories YouTube channel. Video has proven to be a great way to share our stories. Last month, we showcased a video highlighting our teachers doing what they do best, teaching, albeit they were teaching virtually from their classrooms. The video was a hit and garnered about 4,000 hits and views right away. I'd like to give credit to our video producer, Steven Silpa, for his hard work in producing the district's videos. Our online presence continues to grow. Our followers on the ABC Stories Instagram page is up by over 30% since last July, and our reach on Twitter is up by about 3,000 hits each month over last year. Facebook continues to be the best way to connect with families in the community through social media. We have grown our followers by about 200 just since July and average well over 5,000 views per month with great engagement, which means they're clicking on our messages or photos. Local media continues to carry the district's stories. Since July, we have had 7 stories carried by the local newspaper in both print and online formats, covering stories from the ABC Virtual Academy to the LA Chargers visiting with students from Stowers Elementary. As you just heard, we are moving towards the possibility of having students back in our schools. Communicating this move is critical to making sure our families have the information they need to make a decision that is the best model of learning for their students. To this end, we are working closely with Dr. Mayfield to communicate with our families through multiple channels and languages to ensure all understand what reopening our school means. We are currently producing a video that will highlight the changes at our schools, including student screenings and the cleaning processes that our school sites will go through each day. A new website that will include reopening resources, as well as a COVID-19 dashboard showing current confirmed cases in the district, will be included in our communications plan and outreach. Again, communicating with our families and the communities we serve has never been more important, and we are doing our best to keep all of our stakeholders informed. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. I know that both of these items were presentations, but at this time, I'd like to give the board an opportunity to, if they have an opinion about either presentation, to use this time. I encourage you to be concise. Thank you both. Thank you, Dr. Mayfield, and thank you, Scott. I will go down the list as usual. Vice President Mendoza?
Thank you, Madam President. I just have a couple comments and questions. So, Dr. Mayfield, as we transition into possibly going to hybrid, we are speaking with our bargaining units and having an understanding with them, because I think safety is the biggest thing, and we want our students, we want our families, and we want our staff to be safe. So we are working with them.
Yes, we're working extremely closely with all of our bargaining units. We meet with them regularly on this topic. Thank you.
Thank you. And I did see one of the models in option 2 when we have the cohorts A and B. It says 6 students in a cohort. Is that the max, or what is the max of students in a classroom?
Great question. Our class sizes vary in size. The majority of our classes can probably seat 15 students with the appropriate 6 feet physical distancing. So up to 15 students. Some classes are smaller, and if there's special education with parent educators in the classroom, the numbers will be smaller, but up to 15 students.
Thank you. And I know it's a presentation. I know we're going to do one in December. Is it possible, I know parents are, it's going to be a big concern, if we do go hybrid or we have the childcare, what if a student tests positive? What are our procedures for, we get information that maybe a staff or a student tests positive. What are the, the procedures we're going to do? Do students go back to, being virtual? Will you have that provided in the next presentation?
Absolutely. I would like to share that in the context of the hybrid model that we're proposing to move forward.
Thank you. That's it, Madam President.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to Board Clerk Yu.
Thank you, Madam President. First of all, Dr. Valencia and the rest of the staff, thank you very much for such an extensive work. I could only imagine the number of hours that went into this. It's just looking at it makes my head spin. But I know that as I engage with some of the, community and the parents, there was the survey definitely, I think, reflects the parents that I interacted with. There was a good satisfaction for the virtual academy, including myself too, because of the uncertain future. We don't know how this corona is going to go. So I think definitely many parents feel that virtual academy is the best. However, there are some parents who did share about the mental health of the students, and that their kids are okay, but they hear from their children's friends who are struggling. So I know that you would cover this in the future, but is it possible to continue the virtual academy and do the extracurricular activities such as sports or clubs or what have you?
Absolutely. In either hybrid option that we choose, we want to assure families that if they decide to stay virtual, the students can still come in for those sports programs and those club activities. That option will be available for the students to participate in person for that portion of the day. And so, yes, consideration for that will be embedded in the hybrid options.
Thank you. And 82% meets or exceeds expectation. That is very high. That is very encouraging survey. However, when we do hybrid, I'm sure we have all the legal aspects covered, but I am concerned about there would be parents taking legal actions when their students, who knows where the kids or we're infected. I mean, it could be anywhere, market, fast food store, anywhere. But how is that, are the parents for sure sign the liability?
I'm sorry, there was someone entering the call. So at our December 15th meeting is when we're going to address specifically our COVID plan and our COVID protocols and procedures. And so at that meeting, we will outline how we will handle a COVID case, what the communication is, and what our contact tracing, and what our expectations will be for our families. So if you don't mind, I would like to keep in the context of that next presentation when we need to have the specifics for our families.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Valencia. Again, I really appreciate the information that you provided tonight. It's very thorough. It's very helpful. I think that, is this PPT available to the public?
Yes, it is. It's available at our district website in English and in Spanish.
Okay, that's great. I think parents, very informative to the parents.
Yeah, it's translated in Korean and Chinese as well. So all languages are available on the website.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. And lastly, I just want to say that having choices is good, but I am a little bit concerned if we have too many choices, because that does stretch and split the teachers' availability. So if like a school can decide on, if the staff, if you can give us direction where we can sort of utilize the staff to one or two options rather than too many options. You know, we don't want just few students in the classroom, few students in the virtual, because that really splits. We have limited resources. So that is all, Madam President. Back to you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. or Board Member Apodaca.
Thank you, Madam President. So really quick, I just wanted to say thank you for this presentation. And I'll only take a second, I promise. So during these unprecedented times, I know there's still so much unknown with what's going on with the county, what's going on in the state. I know that having a flexible, safe option while still offering rigorous curriculum, is very important. Obviously, not just for us as educators, but also for the community, for our stakeholders. So I guess I'd be interested in learning more for when this comes back as an action item as to what other school districts are doing and how they're making their classrooms, more flexible, maybe adopting a hybrid model while also offering a safe, rigorous curriculum.
Absolutely, we could provide.
And that's all I have, Madam President. Thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Long? Board Member Nishi?
I think Board Member Nall still wants to ask a question.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. I don't hear him. Board Member Long?
Maynard, you're muted. Okay.
I didn't touch it. God has changed my mute on.
Okay, there you are. You weren't on my screen. Go ahead, Maynard.
I have questions about this. First one is what are we going to do with all the kids that are involved in special education in these kind of hybrid or whatever we end up with?
Thank you for the question. Whatever model that we offer, our families who have students in special education will also have a choice. And so they'll have the same choice that students who are in general ed will have, and they can choose to continue in the virtual academy. And once we make the decision on the type of hybrid model we plan to provide, they can also choose that, and we will meet their needs in either model. So we want to ensure that our families in special ed will also have a choice.
The second part of this is, I know you did a lot of work and you have a lot of surveys. Have we ever looked at what the students want? Not the parent, but what the students want to do, how they interact with these kinds of things. And, you know, this is, I have my grandkids here, and I can tell you what they feel about this, but have we looked at the students themselves? What do they want to be? Do they want the virtual, or do they want hybrid, or do they even know? Or do they have a role in this?
Thank you so much, Mr. Law. We actually have 2 more surveys that are going to be released. One survey is going to students, and then one survey is going to all district employees. And so we'll be releasing those 2 surveys before winter break, before Thanksgiving fall break. And so we'll be able to report that back at our December 15th board meeting.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's it.
Thank
Board
you.
Member Nishi, thank you.
Yeah, so first, I'd like to thank the teachers bargaining unit for even for us to even have a choice 1, choice 2, like kind of like Scotty, I remember, you know, give me that third option, and at least option 2 seems like it's something that's offers more instructional time. I got a couple quick questions though. LA County requires it's 12 students per room, or is it, can we go up to 15 now?
It depends on the physical size of the classroom. So in a child care model, the max is 12 children, but in a regular school model, it's really about the physical size of the classroom. And so some of our classrooms, we can safely seat 15 students, but some of our classrooms are smaller. And again, if they're have paraeducators, that makes the number even smaller. Okay,
so if it's daycare, it's 12, but if it's teaching, it's whatever the room can actually conceivably fit. That's a lot of game theory that you have to go through to figure out all these particular outcomes. So I really commend you for providing the other additional option, not just going with what we had before, which was a lot less instructional time. I did also have a question regarding special ed. So the county will enable us or allow us to do 25% on a waiver. Are we considering trying that for special ed? And the only reason is I think it's really hard for special ed kids to pay attention to a video screen, particularly the more severe ones, and they're missing out on a lot of stuff. So is there any thought of doing that? We are in conversations regarding the possibility of our special ed coming back to a small cohort group. One of the things that was the priority was really to try to bring back all of our students. And so that's why the focus and the energy has been really centered around bringing back all students. If that does not appear to be an option that we can actually implement due to the purple status, then definitely we will transition our focus to saying, should we just bring in small cohorts of special ed students? And so that's kind of the order in which we were exploring this. Again, working very closely with our union partners on that in that discussion as well. Okay, so it's more of an emphasis to do for everybody. I get it. I just know that special ed, this is an important time for them. They only have so many years in education, and so if we prioritize them, I would not be against something like that, just because it's difficult for them to sit in front of a video camera all the time. And also, Board Member Nishi, if I can say that a lot of what we're doing right now is getting our school facilities ready. And so that has also taken time, and we don't have all of those pieces in place yet. We're looking at shields on student desks, we have to remove extra furniture, we have to add our signage and have our plans in place. And so that's taken a tremendous amount of time. When families say 82% of them are happy with our virtual academies, because we've spent a lot of energy in making our virtual academy a success. And so we are also now working to get our facilities ready so we can continue exploring to bringing in our cohorts of students who are in special education. And by the way, I know that it's going to be hard to bring, even if you ask them to come right now, it might be hard to get them to come in because I've seen the daycare and it's hard for them to even fill up the daycare class. So I mean, I saw that they didn't have anybody in 7th grade for a little while there and they just really have a hard time getting them. So I understand that that would be a challenge to even get people to come in during this time. So I understand. All right, thank you for the work, and I guess thank you teachers for even giving us this option. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Board members say?
To do that.
Sophie, you're muted.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Mhm.
Okay. Well, first I thank you. This is a very extensive report. I do have a couple questions. It's page number 3. I see 82% meets or exceeds the expectation. Those 18% did not meet the expectation. Do you have any future plan to focus and improve that?
Yeah, like I said earlier, we are interested in knowing about the 18% and what their feedback is, and we would encourage them to reach out to their child's principal and share that input. And then I will work with Scott, Mr. Smith, to potentially create a space on our website to also collect further information from that 18% that would like to see some areas of improvement in our virtual academy.
When you did this parent and guardian survey data, do you also did survey with the teacher too? Because you know how, my question leading to you is, you know, when we do the survey, do we focus on the health needs too? Because some of the family member may have, what do you call that, disorder of immune system. And if they do have that, do you think those students should come to the school and then bring in and out, exposed to the outside and bring something home, maybe also affect the family member? Same thing applied to the teacher. Will you consider that?
So once we are in position to actually open a hybrid, there'll be a lot of information meetings, and included in those information meetings, we will ask parents to consider their child's health and to see if they have some pre-existing underlying conditions, or if there's a family member that lives with them that has a pre-existing underlying condition. So we do have kind of like a questionnaire that we will ask parents to say, here, look at the questions on this questionnaire. If you answer yes to pretty much all of those, then a hybrid is a good option for you. But if you're answering no to most of those, then probably the virtual academy is the best option for you. So we'll have that for our families to kind of help guide them in those decisions.
I hope we also have this for our teacher too, such as age over 65. They are the high risk. And if the family member has no immune system, that way they also have a choice to, instead of go to hybrid, they can also do the virtual education.
Dr. Zelo is in the process of surveying all of our employees and asking that question if they're over 65, they have a pre-existing condition, or if they have a family member is. So Dr. Zelo is leading that survey and collecting that data as we speak.
Well, thank you so much. You know, you really, playing so deeply and consider everybody's health and safe. And this, thank you very much. President, that will be my last question finished. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, may I have a motion to approve the agenda for the regular meeting of November 4th, 2020?
Sophia, so moved.
Second, Sue.
Roll call, please.
Dr. Apodaca,
Yes.
Mr. Lott, Mrs. Mendoza,
Yes.
Mr. Nishi,
Yes.
Dr. Rios,
Yes.
Mrs. Say,
Yes.
Mrs. Yu.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of October 20th, 2020?
So move Mendoza.
Sophia, second.
Roll call, please.
Dr. Apodaca,
Yes.
Mr. Lott, Mrs. Mendoza,
Yes.
Mr. Nishi,
Yes.
Dr. Rios,
Yes.
Mrs. Se,
Yes.
Mrs. Yu,
Yes.
motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to call on Manahil, and I'm sorry if I don't say the name right, Manahil Ahmed and Anais Mendoza of Gar High School to present a report on school activities.
Good evening, President Rios, Vice President Mendoza, Clerk Yu, distinguished members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Mary Sue, and her cabinet. My name is Anais Mendoza, and this is Manahil Ahmed. We are here to present our board report for Gar High School. Our freshman class held their first meeting on Thursday, October 29th with the Halloween theme. They are now reviewing applications for their open cabinet positions and planning future fundraisers.
The sophomore class recently finalized the selection of their cabinet members. They had a Shot to O fundraiser on Saturday, October 24th.
Our junior class had their first Spirit Day on October 15th, Throwback Thursday, where students posted pictures from their freshman and sophomore years. They have also launched their very own class website.
The senior class had a Spirit Week where students posted their favorite memories on their Instagram story. Recently, they designed a class logo for all senior merchandise. Students can purchase class merchandise and have the option to have apparel shipped to their homes. They are currently in the process of looking for fundraisers to earn more money for their class.
Our ASB held a virtual Halloween Spirit Week with activities such as virtual pumpkin carving and a costume contest. ASB is currently planning a virtual homecoming rally with a tentative date of Friday, November 20th. We are planning an Among Us themed virtual spirit rally for Wednesday, December 16th. At this event, we'll feature performances from our bands and have games for students to earn spirit points. We also hosted a virtual club rush on Wednesday, October 21st. It was quite a success as 25 student groups participated and hundreds of students tuned in.
As the Commissioners of Academics, we were proud to announce the winners of our Hispanic Heritage Month essay contest. Students wrote about a person of Hispanic origin whom they really admire. We are now working to distribute the prizes that were graciously donated by our very own Vice President Mendoza. Thank you very much, Vice President Mendoza. We really appreciate your generosity.
Students have a myriad of support resources, including the Math and Writing Center, College and Career Center, and the Student Resource Center. The Student Resource Center promotes cultural empathy on campus and is focused on creating a positive impact for students. It is a safe space where students are encouraged to voice their opinions about justice and create positive change. Students also have access to a virtual Math and Writing Center where they can get help from student tutors and teachers. The College and Career Center has provided students with a virtual college fair, helps with financial aid, and provides information about scholarships.
Fall sports begin conditioning this week. Hopefully, spring sports will be able to fully participate at a later date, yet to be determined. The COVID screening protocols were presented to parents on October 27th during a Zoom meeting. At this time, only cross-country, football, volleyball, and water polo will be able to participate.
Our marching band, along with the Leo Elementary, Tetzlaff High School, and Ross Middle School bands and choirs, had a blast putting together their virtual Halloween medley, which they performed last Wednesday, October 28th at a Halloween festival. Thank you and have a great rest of your evening.
Thank you. Any board comments?
Yes, Madam President, of course I do. Thank you. I just want to mention that I don't know if everyone got a chance to watch the virtual Halloween presentation. That was amazing. They did an amazing job. I don't know how they do it. I don't know how the music teachers do that. That was awesome. You guys did a great job. And I just want to take a moment of privilege just to thank my daughter, Anais. I want to say you're doing a great job. I love you. I'm proud of you. I see how hard you work every single day, putting together these activities for your school. So just thank you. Keep up the good work. I know it's difficult during these times to get high schoolers engaged virtually, but you guys are doing amazing. Not just at GAR, but of all of our schools, even our elementaries, our preschools. You guys are doing such a great job in making a situation that's not normal into something that could be normal. So thank you all for doing such a good work. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay.
Actually, can I have real quick? So I would love to know the next time you guys have fundraisers. So if you could let the board know, we can all try to publicize that. And also that band performance was very cool. I liked it. It was just, I saw how he sat there and he kind of gave explanation how difficult it is and all the challenges that you're doing to go through that. And it was very impressive. So thank you. That's it.
Okay, thank you. At this time, we'll move on to our superintendent's report. Dr. Su?
Thank you so much. First of all, I just do want to congratulate Monahil and Anais for a wonderful board report from Gar High School tonight. On Monday, October 26, I joined over 40 participants representing our labor groups to discuss the safely reopening of schools beginning in January of 2021. This is dependent on whether Los Angeles County will be able to move into the next tier, the red tier. Students and families who would like to remain in the virtual academy will be able to continue. And this is what you just heard from Dr. Valencia Mayfield regarding her presentation tonight. On Wednesday, I participated in the Cerritos College 2020 virtual State of the College address. Dr. Jose Fierro, CEO and Superintendent, Board of Trustees, and students addressed the issues that were vital to them. This included how they were coping with the homelessness issues, the Cerritos Complete program, their CTE programs, and their new health and wellness center. They noted that we are in collaboration with Cerritos College for the dual enrollment programs in our district. It was a wonderful presentation by Cerritos College. In the afternoon, I participated in the Los Angeles Public Health Officials telebriefing. Dr. Barbara Fear, director of the LA Public Health Department, indicated that due to the spikes in Los Angeles County, that we will continue to be in the purple tier for at least the next 4 weeks. In the evening, I was able to watch that wonderful virtual Halloween showcase produced by Matt Gullett, band director at Leo Elementary School and Tetzlaff Middle School. The showcase included our youth musicians from Leo, Haskell, Tetzlaff, Ross, and Gar. It was an amazing set of performances from our students. You may access the virtual Halloween showcase at youtube.com. In the evening on October 29th, I participated in the Social Justice Speaker Series with Dr. Natalie Sartine regarding Africana Studies. Dr. Sartine works at Cerritos College and shared information regarding their first year program with social justice. Principals, assistant principals, counselors, and district administrators all participated in this speaker series. Last Friday, October 30th through Tuesday, November the 3rd, 9 of our schools were opened as voting centers in our district. The 9 schools included Ross, Carmenita, Gar, Haskell, Juarez, Bragg, Whitney, Whitman, and Willow. And these schools were determined by the county registrar's office. And I'm so glad that they had a very smooth experience throughout these past 4 days. On November the 2nd, we received notification from the LA County Office of Education that our learning continuity plan was approved. The plan was reviewed for alignment with the instructions that address the requirements for each prompt. There were no further recommendations on our learning continuity plan. And that completes my report, President Rios.
Thank you. At this time, we'll hear from our ABCFT president, Mr. Ray Gare.
Thank you, Dr. Rios. Good evening, President Dr. Rios, Board Trustees, Superintendent Dr. Su, the Administrative Cabinet, teachers, nurses, parents, students, and members of the ABC community. My name is Ray Gare, and I'm president of the ABC Federation of Teachers. And just going to give you an update on what we've been working on. Recently, the ABCFT held its first equity committee to discuss how teachers can better address the needs of all the students in ABC, regardless of their race, ethnicity, gender, or any other characteristic that makes our wonderful student a diverse population that we serve. In all, more than 30 members are committed to addressing these issues of equity in ABC. for the entire school district and for the employees and the students, parents to community members. And ABCFT will continue to provide updates on this important standing committee. And the reason I say standing committee is this is a committee that these members are committed to continue to do for as long as it takes. And that could be years and years and years. And so we're going to make them part of our organization. They'll report to our executive board and we'll share any results that come from that as far as teacher trainings or things that we can do for the community, students, anything we can do to elevate this cause. And so we'll be keeping you updated on that. I'd like to make a comment about the hybrid presentation today. So first off, I'm going to talk about the elephant in the room. The elephant in the room is we just had Halloween, we just had an election, we're going to have Thanksgiving, and we're going to have Christmas, and then, winter break, sorry, and we're going to see surges. And so ABC is planning because we need to have a plan. And so what you heard from Dr. Mayfield tonight, when she says we're exploring, we're actually negotiating. And this is kind of historic because ABC doesn't usually negotiate in public. It's one of the things that we hold dear is we don't negotiate in public. However, this is a special case and an important case because it needs to include the community. And so I like what Mr. Nishii said about, we're listening to the board, we're listening to the community, and we're listening to our students to best work for their needs and what's going to make us successful as a district. But we're also, first off, representing the teachers to make sure that we're meeting halfway. I'd just like to share with you some of our negotiating priorities since we think this is important. And first off, let's just say that there is no substitute for in-person learning. There just isn't. What we do in the classroom and what our nurses do, our SLPs, our CTE teachers, our electives teachers, our core teachers, there's just no substitute for what they do with the students in the classroom, and the students know that. And I'm really proud of what the teachers of ABC have done to make virtual learning work. But I do want to give you our negotiating priorities. And number one is the safety of all of our students and teachers. This means, PPE, shields, plexiglass on all the classrooms for both students and teachers. Currently, there's none of these in the schools except for in the special ed testing centers. And that's because there's a lot of planning going on. But our schools are currently not prepared for this. And so that's something that I know as a district, we're all working towards. But like everybody's a doctor tonight. Sophia said tonight, making sure that there are options for those students and teachers that have pre-existing conditions or their caregivers. Those are really important to us as a union, and just as students and parents have options, teachers need to have options too, especially when it comes to their health. Number two is transparency. So parents, teachers, and the community members must know the current COVID cases that are happening in ABC in the form of a district COVID dashboard on the district website. And the community should know that there are active cases currently happening in ABC, and that they should be fully aware of these COVID situations in ABC before they make any kind of decisions on whether their students or their child should stay virtual or go to any one of the hybrids that we're discussing. And you heard today from Scott. His last name's blowing my mind right now. Scott said the district is working on this dashboard, and transparency is going to be very key because the community needs to know, especially parents need to know, that these cases are happening in LA County, and they are impacting ABC schools, even without students. And so we think that's vitally important, that there's transparency for everybody. Number three, the ABC Federation of Teachers represents teachers and nurses who wholeheartedly believe in the academic success of their students. Just like, Ms. Mendoza said, and Dr. Apodaca, and I love that school safe and rigorous curriculum, safe and rigorous curriculum. I think I'm gonna use that one over and over, because that's really what we're looking for. And what that means is we look not only for the safety of our students, but the academic integrity. And so what that means is coming back for a hybrid requires more technology, because there's going to be probably situations where you'll have students online and possibly students split between online and at school on various dates. And that takes, let me give you an example. Just for a teacher online right now, most of them have at least 2 monitors. I know they have 2 monitors, one for a program called Go Guardian, where they're monitoring what websites the students are on. Then they have another monitor so they can see their students as they present, and then they have their presentation. And some of them have even an additional computer or monitor on top of that. Now, how do you replicate that when you bring kids back into hybrid? It's going to be a good discussion about technology, and that includes things like extra monitors, voice amplifiers, cameras, possibly so that students can see their teacher when they go to the board. There are lots of possibilities, but these are all negotiating things that we're really talking about, because the academic integrity of our teachers and the curriculum they deliver to the students is paramount in ABC. And that's what makes ABC a great district, because you have teachers who are student-centered and really worried about the academic success of their students. Number 4, and Mr. Law, I appreciate you bringing up the student voice. Student voice is really important. They are living it. I talked to my 15-year-old, and I talked to my 19-year-old, and I talked to teachers that have young kids that are at home, and they're experiencing this very unique learning environment. And when we go back to hybrid, it's eventually, maybe hopefully it's this year sometime, or at least in the fall. We need to do it so that it meets their needs, and that means their mental health needs and their academic needs and their safety needs. And so parents need to be a part of this process along with the students. There should be no hidden surprises when they sign up for a program, when they decide to say virtual, or they decide to pick one of the hybrids that we negotiate, that they should know what the options entail, and so that they feel confident in their decision. It'd be horrible if we had parents make decisions and there was buyer's remorse and the situation changed. And all of you have experienced for the last 8 or 9 months how COVID changes from month to month. So those of you that are asking, why doesn't the district have a hybrid already developed? We do have a hybrid model that was developed for the start of school, but changing to a hybrid mid-year is a whole nother complicated problem that we're working on currently to meet the needs of everybody. And that takes a lot of preparation and making sure that there are no hidden unintended consequences for everybody. So I think that's really important that we listen to the parents and the students because they're stakeholders in this, and they're living it. Finally, the situation is evolving, and the ABC Federation of Teachers will do what we feel best is for students and for teachers. And like I said before, teachers are student-centered. That's not always the case in every single school district and every teacher in the United States. But I'd say a vast majority of the teachers in ABC, when they give us emails or they fill out surveys, they're thinking about the academic, I love it. safe and rigorous curriculum that we're developing and implementing here in ABC. So I again, think paramount to that is safety. And that's something that we're working with the district to make sure that we have a safe environment. Lastly, I was on a call with around 200 teachers, and we have a live chat with teachers every Tuesday. And we had a real serious discussion about what's going on in the United States as far as voting and how important in times of crisis your principals, your administrators, your teachers are to support the students in the classroom and the parents. This is a time for calm and reassurance that this is going to work out and that they'll be okay and that their schooling will go on and life will continue to move forward. And I cannot say enough about how the ABC community has really rallied for the kids in this community. And we'll continue to do that as a community. So I appreciate the opportunity to share what we're negotiating and what we're exploring. I know that in the next week or so, I'm going to visit a couple of schools with Dr. Mayfield in another district. And we're looking at other districts, hoping to find a hybrid that serves the needs of our students, teachers, and administrators, and the parents in our district. So thank you.
Thank you for that. At this time, we will move on to public comments. Madam Clerk?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. We have 2 public comments, I believe. 3 public comments, I believe. Persons wishing to address the board should provide public comments during the public comment section by the following method: myabcusd.org/board meeting, and use the link or phone number to participate in the Zoom meeting. If using the Zoom, please use the raise your hand feature during the public comments portion of the agenda or during the public comments time after an agenda item. If using the phone, please use star 9 to raise your hand. During the public comments portion of the agenda or during the public comments time after an agenda item, then use star 6 to unmute yourself when you are called to speak. Comments will be presented during the public comments section, which is limited to 1 hour, and each speaker to 1 presentation of 5 minutes, unless the board wishes to waive the time limit. Those who have a group concern are encouraged to select a spokesperson to address the board. Comments submitted regarding a specific agenda item will be presented following the staff comments and prior to the board's discussion and taking action. Adverse remarks about a person's race, ancestry, ethnic group, identification, religion, color, national origin, sex, sexual orientation, gender, mental or physical handicap, or age may not be made. Concerns presented to the board will be followed up and addressed by the appropriate staff. The first public comment is the phone number ending 333. Can you please state your name? And go ahead. Go ahead, you can speak.
Good evening, board members. I am a parent of a daughter that was sexually harassed at Cerritos High School. My daughter is one of the many other students that filed a complaint with school administrators and nothing was done. Instead, she was treated like she was a criminal. She was retaliated by the assailant's friends at school, and in the end, she was the one that had to move schools and not the boy. He was allowed to come back. During this ordeal, I reached out to Board Member Mendoza many times. She did not respond to my calls, and she ignored me, just like my daughter was ignored. I had nowhere to go, and I was lost. I was losing trust in the district. And then recently, during the school board race, Board Member Mendoza sent out a nasty mailer against the opponent. To top that, the ABC Teachers Union logo was on it, which shows they support her and her actions. I just couldn't believe a board member bullying a candidate. Is this something that the teachers represent? What are the consequences of her actions? As for my daughter, she is doing well. I still have faith in the board and the district, and that they will take the complaints of sexual harassment and bullying seriously. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Our next public comment is Maggie Kanang. Go ahead, Maggie.
Hello, can you hear me? I'm sorry.
Yes, we can hear you. Yes.
Thank you. First off, I want to say thank you to the board for your time and consideration. Like was said, my name is Maggie Canning. I'm a former alum of the K-12 system. I went to Nixon, and then I went to Whitney. So I'm very happy about my experience, except for some sadly kind of frequent or just more than wanted stories of people being sexually assaulted or just interpersonal violence in general. And it's sad to hear that this is a reoccurring theme. And it's also disappointing to hear that to this day, the board or our former boards and our current board is still struggling to come up with solutions. It's a tough battle. Definitely, it's not just our school board, but our school board likes to tout our innovation and our role as leaders within a broader community. So I encourage and implore our board to do better because we can do better. We have a lot of resources, and it's up to us to use those resources widely. Sexual assault and sexual violence is another form of an epidemic. It's another form of a pandemic. It happens to each of us. It happens to many people we know. Many of us do not know the answer. Many of us don't even realize it's happening. I'm not calling for more punitive measures, as many of our students are just kids. They are just kids, and many of us don't want to, scar their future for mistakes, done as a child. But that doesn't mean we should be afraid to prevent harm. There are many ways of preventing harm, such as educating our kids how to use their voice, teaching them about what consent looks like, teaching them what sexual autonomy looks like, and teaching them what how to reach out and where to reach out. Currently, I don't know of any resources our school board touts and just like everyone knows about in order for parents, peers, teachers, and students to go to in the case of harm. Who are they supposed to go to? Their counselors? Well, a lot of counselors are already dealing with so many other things and aren't, really trained to deal with things like assault and rape and harassment. So please invest these resources we have, because it's already been several months that we hear these heartbreaking stories of pain and confusion and disappointment, and people want to believe in you. So please show us that there are reasons for us to keep on hoping, or else people are going to start resenting and giving up. But like I said, we have the resources, we can do this, and with your leadership, we will support you in the right decision. So thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to hearing your solutions and support for survivors and their allies.
Okay, thank you. Our next speaker is Kirit Chuan?
Good evening, President Rios, board members, Dr. Su, staff and community. My comments today are going to be about bond measure BB and the presentation that was made. During that presentation, what I heard was that we are going to make improvement at 2 high schools, Artesia and Whitney. So let me start with Artesia High School. According to the master plan, many things were stated, but the football field renovation wasn't one of those things. And I don't quibble it. I think it's a great idea if it is not intended just for the football player, because that's a small subset by which to make that sort of investment. However, if you leverage that football field, because there have been comments around it, if you leverage that football field into using a training or a practice opportunity for band at Artesia High School, soccer at Artesia High School, how about expanding it to rugby at Artesia High School? You can get multiple uses out of that one single investment that can make tremendous improvement at that high school. What I didn't hear was how are we going to make those classrooms bigger? Somehow we have stuck in our brain this 900 square mentality. By the way, the law is 960 square feet minimum. Now, is that really what we're trying to do? Meet the minimum requirements? Are we going to aim a little higher? So it's kind of upsetting to hear something. Perhaps there are more details. Perhaps we can get more information about it. Moving on to Whitney High School. And again, your shining jewel, your #1 high school. And then you say 900 square feet? Really? You can't do any better than 900 square feet? What happened in both high schools? I heard no comments about what you're going to do for special ed students. I heard no comments about how career technical education or classrooms that support that will be implemented. So it's important that as we use Prop BB money, that we create schools that can support all these initiatives. I would like to see, actually, not just me, but some public members also, what are the plans? Are we as residents expected to just provide the money and not see the plans? So please put them up somewhere so we can see them. Perhaps we can provide some input. I know it's your call, but it sure rubs us the wrong way when we think that we don't know what's going on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Our last public comment is from April Martinez.
So I have a couple of questions, and one of them, the first one is, I'm wondering how the board feels about the safety of the teachers going back to school. The second is, I'm a little confused about like how we're, again, the BB bond, we're spending it on renovating our, I don't know, our playground equipment, which cannot be used. And that's our priority. Like, I'm a little confused about that. So those are my comments.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Martinez. Dr. Su will follow up with all the public comments. Next, our last public comments is Emma Flores.
Hello.
Go ahead,
Hello?
we can hear you. Yes,
Yeah.
we can hear you.
Voy a hablar español. Mi nombre es Emma Flores y tengo 2 hijos, uno en Artesia y uno en Ferguson. Y miren desde que comenzó y estoy muy, como me imagino que todos los padres, preocupada por lo del virus, porque muchos tenemos familia que tienen enfermedades persistentes y no queremos nuestros hijos que atiendan ahorita a la clase, sino como están ahorita virtuales. ¿Por qué si está trabajando el programa que tienen ahorita, no se sigue todo el año así como estamos ahorita ya? Y así cuando tú escoges uno de los dos programas que tienen, tienes que quedar en el programa que escoges o la segunda opción que estaban dando. Gracias.
¿Es todo? Ok, gracias, señora Flores.
Okay.
Vamos a seguir. Gracias. Okay, that is all. And just to all the public comments, our Dr. Sue and our staff will follow up with any questions and follow up to answer all of your questions. Thank you very much. Back to you, President, Madam President.
Board President.
Yeah, I was gonna say, sometimes it's gonna be a good idea, Dr. Sue, if we can have maybe somebody on backup to provide translation services for maybe some of the members of our community that need it.
Yes.
I try to take notes, but others of you that speak Spanish, please chime in. She was talking about concerns that she has with maybe members of her family that have pre-existing conditions and the options that we presented about coming back to school. And she was kind of asking why it is that we are considering options when what she stated was that the virtual academy appears to be working. And those were her comments. So hopefully somebody can reach out to her and discuss that.
Thank you, President.
Native language.
Thank you, President.
Did I miss anything?
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you. At this time, we will move on to consent calendar. May I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So moved by Sophia.
Is there anyone? Oh, sorry. Did you second?
Yes.
Sue?
Yes.
Okay. Is there anyone who wishes to remove an item to be considered separately? Okay, at this time, roll call, please.
Dr. Apodaca,
Yes.
Mr. Law, Mr. Law, Mrs. Mendoza,
Yes.
Mr. Nishii,
Yes.
Dr. Rios,
Yes.
Mrs. Say,
Yes.
Mrs. Yu.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
I'm a late yes.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, action items. May I have a motion to approve community members and student appointments to board advisory committees?
So move Mendoza.
Second, Apodaca.
Okay, we have a few appointments, so I'm going to call on each member to present their board appointee, and I don't know if it's any particular order. So we'll start with board member Dr. Apodaca. Would you like to introduce, please, your person for the Diversity, Unity, and Equity Board Advisory Committee?
Thank you very much, Madam President. Fellow board members and colleagues and members of the community, I'm proud to present Francisco Noyola for appointment to this committee. I have a short bio I'll read, and then I'll let him make some brief remarks. Born and raised in the city of Hawaiian Gardens, a city that's been home to him and his family for over 30 years, he attended Hawaiian Elementary, Ferguson Elementary, and Fetty Middle School. After he graduated high school, he attended Cerritos College and obtained an Associate of Arts in Psychology and transferred to Cal State Long Beach, where he obtained a Bachelor's of Arts in Psychology. While working for the city of Hawaiian Gardens, he met dedicated coworkers and community members that motivated him to be more involved within his own community. Their devotion, passion, and selfless work inspired him to be a catalyst for change in the city of Hawaiian Gardens. When I first met him, it was in his role as an advocate for AFSCME in our small city. The more I've gotten to know him over the years, the clearer his dedication to public service has become. As a union rep, he fought for equal and fair representation, which is exactly what we need on this committee. He has a heart for our students and shares our district vision to promote equity in all of our schools. I happily and genuinely recommend him for appointment and confirmation tonight. if you would so do us the honor. And Mr. Noyola, if you would like to chime in and offer some remarks as well.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
I saw him. Is he on?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, my internet's a little spotty, but yeah, I just want
Okay.
to thank Dr. Chris Abodaka for appointing me for this diversity. Hello?
Okay, you're coming in and out. Try it again.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, it's just my internet's spotty. But no, I just want to thank everybody. I want to thank the board, ABC. Growing up, I went to Gar High School, and I remember Dr. Zietlow when she was our principal. And I remember Gar High School was one of the most diverse schools I ever attended. And it was kind of a melting pot and a small microcosm of what ABC School District does. It takes students from different walks of life and different socioeconomical backgrounds, and it puts them together. And I'm glad to say that growing up and looking back to our younger students, I've seen that they become more empathetic and they start working more cohesively together. So I'm here to serve the community and this board and my full.
Thank you, Francisco.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, we'll have Vice President Mendoza introduce her appointee for the Strategic Planning Board Advisory Committee.
Capacity, and I'm glad. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. So I'd like my appointee to be John Gaines to the Strategic Planning Committee, and I don't have his bio. John, I think he is joining us. John, are you here? Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi. Can you guys, I'm good with the sound and everything? Yeah. Yeah, my name is John Gaines. I've been involved in education. I've been a teacher for 15 years. I taught math, have my credential, my master's. I've been serving the education community for probably about 20 years now. I've served on local school boards, local math councils, both in the regional level and the state level. I've spoken across the country on math education, STEM, literacy. 10 years ago, I met my wife. She born and raised in Hawaiian Gardens, attended Hawaiian, Fedi, and Artesia High, and she worked in education in this area too. So she got me really involved in wanting to work in this community. And it was about a few years ago that together we started a company to help bring things like STEM and literacy into the after school time. So we started working with the schools in the area like NEMIS. Right now we're working with the Migrant Ed program. So we're doing as much as we can to really give back to this community. I know for her, it's been one of the most touching things to be able to, help the kids and help the schools where she grew up in. And for me, it's just, I love education and I want to give back to the kids, and I want, constantly want to find ways to inspire them and engage them in education. So it's been an interest of mine to get as involved as I can with ABC, and yeah, I appreciate this opportunity, and thank you, Ms. Mendoza and school board, and for the opportunity to serve this community.
You, John.
Yeah.
Thank you. This time we'll go on and now have Ms. Board Member Nishii introduce his appointee for the Student Transfer Committee.
Hi, I'm really proud to nominate Cynthia Corrales as my nominee. I'm lucky to have her. I'm very honored to have her. She's been in this district for many, many years. She knows the inside and out. She's had 5 kids, all of them who attended ABC. She's the Whitney High School PTSA president currently. She's been part of the PTA council president for, I think, 3 terms or so. You name it, she's done it for our schools. Ad hoc facilities committee, various PTA positions, Hawaiian Gardens Little League. She's been part of the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. I think some of these qualities are going to be specifically good for her in terms of on the transfer committee. She knows about mental health. She's been part of the youth mental health first aid program in the United States, and also part of leadership and advocacy. So I'm lucky to have snagged her, and I really think she will do very well in this committee. I'm very proud that she's consented to be appointed to this committee. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any public comments or discussion on this item?
I do, just a comment, Madam President.
Go ahead.
I also, yeah, I don't know if I heard it, but I think you left it out, Ernie. Cynthia Corrales was also very active with the ABC Education Foundation, and she was critical in planning the 50th anniversary gala that brought so much recognition to our school district and to the foundation. So it would be remiss for me not to acknowledge her hard work and her dedication to such a great organization as the ABC Education Foundation. That's all I have. Thank you, Madam President.
And you can add to the list of accolades her participation in the parent leadership conferences every year. So yes, the list goes on and on and on with Cynthia. So very nice to have her be part of that group. Anybody else?
Yes, Madam President.
I think Ray Garrett wants to introduce Gabby Ibarra.
Okay. Did you want to say something, Vice President Mendoza? And then we'll move on to our next appointee.
No, I just saw the message that Ray wanted to introduce Gabby.
Okay, I don't have that on my list. So we're appointing her. Well, go ahead and tell us, Ray, please.
All right, thank you, Dr. Rios. So Gabby Ibarra is the ABCFT representative for the Diversity, Unity, and Equity Committee. And so just a little background, she's a first grade teacher at Nemis. She's been in the district for more than 8 years, something like that. Sorry. But what's important is that she was a teacher leader, which is a program that we have where a dozen teachers learn about the union, advocate at the state level for the district and at the national level. And so she's been instrumental in that in the last couple of years. She is on the equity committee that I spoke about earlier. And she is one of those kinds of teachers that's really going to be looking out for the equity of our students. And so we're ABCFT is proud to put her forward for this committee. Thank you.
Thank you. And yes, I do see her on our board agenda book.
And she's homegrown ABC. Sorry.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, if there are no more, if there is no more discussion or any public comments, can I have a motion, please?
I believe there's a public comment.
Oh, we already have a motion. Roll call, please. Thank you.
I think there's a public comment.
Let's see. Okay, there's one public comment.
And that's on this item?
And is it on this item for community member and student appointment?
Yes, it is.
Okay, go ahead, Maggie.
Thank you. Hi again, it's Maggie. I'm really excited that this is an actionable item. I think it was a long time coming, so I'm excited to see what happens. Just going forward, I wonder if there are any appointees that have experience in speaking on behalf and speaking on the behalf of and working with students that are disabled and also students that are from the queer and trans community, because oftentimes those are the most vulnerable of our students, and I hope that going forward that they do not miss out on this opportunity to be represented and to see change on their behalf. So I was just wondering if that's in the works, and like I said, I'm really happy that this is happening. So thank you for your hard work.
Okay, thank you. That is the end of the public comment, Madam President.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Dr. Apodaca?
Aye.
Mr. La?
Yes.
Mrs. Mendoza,
Yes.
Mr. Nishi,
Yes.
Dr. Rios,
Yes.
Mrs. Say, Mrs. Yu.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. May I have a motion to adopt resolution 2037 to increase statutory school fees imposed on new residential and commercial industrial development projects pursuant to Education Code 17620.
So moved, Sue.
Thank you.
Second Mendoza.
Any public comments or discussion?
There is none. No public comments, Madam President.
Okay. Don't think there's any discussion either. Roll call, please.
Dr. Apodaca,
Aye.
Mr. Love,
Yes.
Mrs. Mendoza,
Yes.
Mr. Nishi,
Yes.
Dr. Rios,
Yes.
Mrs. Say,
Yes.
Mrs. Yu.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the contract with PFMG Solar to provide power purchase agreements for 20 years?
So moved, Ernie.
Second, Sue.
Mr. Wen?
Thank you, Dr. Rios. Good evening. I am going to just some background before I turn over to Ryan Carter, the bond program manager, to introduce this team to present to the board on the purchase agreement and the solar panels that we are about to build over the 30 sites in the district. So 5 years ago, we received what we call the Proposition 39 funding from the state. It was about almost $1 million a year. So we used that to basically change out all the lightings throughout the districts to LED, and also upgrading certain HVAC units to bring it to be more efficient. Part of that grant also allowing for us to conduct a feasibility study regarding solar panels throughout the districts. So we did that, and I believe about 6 months ago we presented to the board our process in that, and what we are about to do with regard to looking at different vendors and trying to enter into an agreement with them so that they can build solar panels throughout the district. So that's the quick summary. I'm going to turn it over to Ryan Carter now, the bond program manager for the district, so he can introduce the team that presenting tonight. Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Nguyen. Good evening, President Dr. Rios, Vice President Mendoza, distinguished board, Dr. Sue, and district cabinet. As stated, we are requesting approval tonight for our district-wide solar contract with PFMG Solar. With that said, though, I do want to recap of the process that we went through, as Tuan briefly touched on. And tonight, to do so, we have a presentation for you. And I'd like to introduce Adam Todd with Cummings. He's been working alongside of the district since the inception of our Prop 39 work and our solar feasibility study. So with that, I'd like to turn over the presentation to Adam. And we have a PowerPoint to share with you.
Great, thank you, Ryan. If I could request the ability to share my screen. There we are. Can everybody see the presentation here? I see a few heads nodding, fantastic. Okay, thank you, board, for the opportunity to present to you this evening. As Ryan and Tuan had mentioned, my name is Adam Todd. I work with Cumming Management Group. I am an energy consultant that has been brought on to facilitate essentially the entire Prop 39 process with the district. And I was the one who presented to you this project, as Tuan had mentioned, 6 to 8 months ago, pre-COVID lockdown. So that was an in-person discussion. So I'll start here by introducing you to the beginning of this project as doing a recap here. So the start of this was through the Prop 39 program. I was brought on in 2016 to help facilitate the identification of energy efficiency measures throughout the district, prioritizing those measures, and then assigning a cost to those measures to then submit to the State of California Energy Commission for approval. In doing so, we were able to get the district just over $4.5 million in energy efficiency dollars that was then spent on lighting and HVAC measures throughout the district. School districts sites included interior lighting, exterior lighting, and lighting controls. All told, the district is expected to save somewhere in the order of $350,000 per year in utility costs from that program. As such, as part of that program, the district elected to pursue solar feasibility, which was covered under that as part of the planning dollars, and I was brought on to help facilitate that process as well. When I originally came to the board to do the presentation on the feasibility study, what we focused on were different considerations with regard to utility cost reduction, as well as the engagement and a meaningful impact for the community. We wanted to make sure that not only the school sites that we were selecting for solar purposes met community criteria for integrating solar within those sites, but also we were taking into consideration local community members and their approval of what the solar would look like on those campuses. So we went through a rigorous criteria of going through and looking for possible selection criterias on locations, positioning, and orientations of solar for the district, and made sure that we were taking into consideration not only the financial component of it, but the community aspect of it. In doing so, we took this project to market earlier this summer. Ryan took this to market, and through that process, it was a competitive design build process, which means that the contractor goes off of select criteria that we would like them to place in terms of sizing and system layouts, but they have some leeway in terms of the actual system design. And that's important for us because it puts the onus on the contractor to give the district the best possible project, as well as gives us some design parameters in terms of the evaluation process. Once we went through the design criteria and the selection process, the contractor selected for this program has delivered a project that is about 7.6 megawatts of total power. That is a lot of power. This would be a 20-year program. So essentially the way that this works, it would be installing solar across all 33 sites. And that would be essentially a little solar plant, solar power plant on each of those sites, which would run the duration of a 20-year program. All sites are included, so we wanted to make sure that we weren't leaving anybody out in the criteria selection here. So we did include all 33 sites, elementary, middle school, and high school programs. As Tuan had mentioned, this is a power purchase agreement, so there is no cash outlay to the contractor for this project. Essentially what you're doing is you're swapping cash flows. So you currently pay Edison, Cerritos, a utility cost. And what you're doing here is allowing a contractor to build essentially a solar power plant on your school site, and you are paying a different amount of cost for that energy for a duration of time. So for these circumstances, you're paying 16.25 cents for that unit of energy for 20 years, and that is a flat rate for that 20 years. And the net benefit for this program, we're estimating about $4.8 million in 2020 dollars. As I'd mentioned, so we were cognizant to include all school sites in our program here. So as you can see here, high schools obviously have the largest systems. That is because they have the largest consumption. So there's quite a bit more to offset at those sites. Middle schools, elementary schools, district sites, we do have the district office included in here. And then alternative sites would be the maintenance and operations offices. All told, again, this is about a 7.6 megawatt system, which is fairly robust for this size of a project. So in our process for selecting contractors for this particular project, we wanted to go with a best value approach. And what that does, it affords us the opportunity to weight different components of criteria that we think are important to the district in order to find the best contractor for this project. What we wanted to avoid is in certain circumstances where you go with a low bid scenario, you can end up with a contractor who is missing several components of the bidding process that could then cost you significantly more in the long run through change orders that we wanted to avoid. So we went through a rigorous criteria here where we voted completeness, references, economics, approach, and value add, each of which have a breakdown of components that I'll talk about in another slide, but each of which is important in and of itself because it allows us to find different components within the contractor's proposal that we find are strengths and are most aligned with the district's objectives. So this is a broad overview of what the selection criteria looks like. I won't go into too much detail here because it is a bit wordy, but essentially this is part of the grading process. So we go through and we do an evaluation on each of those criteria that I showed you in the last slide. And on a scale of 1 to 5, we grade those contractors based on how effectively they're able to present to us their ability to present the best project in the district's respect here. Of the contractors that we received proposals for, we narrowed it down to 3 and went through a best and final criteria. And of those 3, we selected PFMG Solar as the selected contractor for this project. And again, we went through the rigorous grading criteria here, and there were 2 tiers, the initial base tier, and then there was a best and final component to it. And inclusive of those 2, PFMG was the selected contractor due to their the highest overall final score. A little bit about PFMG here. So PFMG is a solar contractor. That is exclusively what they are known for. They are part of Constellation, which is a larger energy brand, but PFMG is exclusively the solar contractor. They've done about 400 megawatts of solar power, which is a pretty substantial amount of solar experience. And right here, this is a small sampling of districts in the local market that they have worked on. But there are quite a few more that we could include if the board was so inclined to ask for later down the road. But this would be a small sampling of your neighbors who have used PFMG and been very satisfied with them. So what I'll do here is I'm going to give you 4 slides that are samples of layouts of solar positioning at each of these sites. So this one here is a representative example of a high school. And this is at Artesia High School. So the way that this works is we usually orient solar arrays at a north-south orientation in order to get the best sun capture. So what this does here is you have a north-south array throughout the north parking lot of this campus, and then also some shade structures down on the ball field there. And what that does is you'll see on the elementary and middle school sites is it's a combination of providing shade for the parking lots and the cars that park in those parking lots, as well as takes into consideration the opportunity to provide shade for students out in areas where we think that they would be congregating or wanting to get some relief from the sun if they're out in the field. So again, this is district office. This is almost exclusively parking lot, which makes sense for that location. Again, this is a middle school site, and this is more of a shade structure component where we felt that providing this on the field would be the best particular location in order to maximize the sun exposure and energy generation, as well as providing the benefit for the students at the site. And lastly, this is Whitman Elementary School. And again, this is a combination of the carports and shade structures. So you'll see a theme here on these 4 representative sites, but this is pretty consistent throughout the remainder 28 sites here, is that we do have a combination of carport and shade structures in order to maximize the benefit of energy potential, as well as student benefit from shade relief. This would be a representative overview of the project schedule. So we're anticipating that this is going to be an 18-month project from start to finish. Today would include start. So this would be a pretty quick timeline here to do all 33 projects, but we have full faith in Ryan's team and the construction managers to be able to get this done from the district side, as well as PFMG from the contractor side. What we have established here is that the project management team and PFMG have worked together in the past, so they do have that continuity of understanding one another's objectives and their work styles, and we feel that this is going to be the best approach for the district in getting the project done in the timeline that we've established. And that is the end of my presentation here, so I will turn it over to Ryan and the board for any question and analysis.
Thank you, Adam. That's all I had. If there's any questions, we're here.
Okay, Vice President Mendoza. Vice President Mendoza, did you have a comment?
I think solar is the.
There we go.
Yes, can you hear me? Okay, I'm just saying that I'm so excited to hear this, Adam and Ryan, because this is something that I was looking forward to when we started talking about the bond is getting these solar panels up. I do have a couple questions. So I'm going to assume that we're going to start first in the high schools because that's where we're going to start our projects first. Or is there a different schedule?
So we haven't established exactly which sites are going first. This is a design build project. So we're in the design phase still, and we have to work through that with our contractors. Our focus is to not disrupt the school sites and their activities. So high schools, you know, in a normal situation are very difficult to shut down a parking lot during the normal school year. So those typically would go to like a summer and try and get the bulk of the extensive work done during the summertime in the parking lots to alleviate having to shut them down during the school year. So the schedule will follow shortly.
Okay, perfect. Can I make a suggestion since we don't know yet? I know there was talk about when we do build them, like in our high schools, to kind of paint them to match, the colors of the high school. So that is, really aesthetically, the kids are like buy into that. And I love that we're doing it because not only does it provide solar energy, but it provides shade for our kids, because on those hot days during the summertime, they need a place to hang out. Sometimes, the trees aren't enough to provide shade. So thank you so much. And I'm glad that, we're moving our schools into the 21st century with the bond, and just adding these solar panels. I think it's just great. I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be a highlight. I've seen them before at other high schools, and I keep saying, I wish we could have those at our schools. So thank you so much. I look forward to them, and awesome presentation. Thank you.
Right, next we'll move on to Board Clerk Yu.
Yes, thank you very much. So we're going to save 4.8 million over the course of 20 years.
Yes, ma'am.
How much does it cost initially? Did I miss something? Because I
Yeah,
don't see any.
no, you didn't. That's a great question. So I want to clarify a couple of points. If you recall, in Measure BB, the priority set by the board was STEPS, which is safety and security, technology, evolution, parity, and the last one is sustainability. So we were able to build solar panels throughout the district without using any Measure BB money. So $0 BB money will be used for this. The contractor is responsible for up to I believe the construction cost is about $33 million for the 33 site. But that's on them. They paying for all of this. What we will have agreed to do is purchase energy from them over the next 20 years. And with that at the discount rate on what we are currently paying now to Edison. So therefore, we will receive a saving or get a saving of over $4.8 million over the 20 years. So I just want to repeat that. There is, and to answer your question, Clerk, there is a construction management cost that the district will have to pay, but that will not be out of Measure BB. It will be out of the district general fund. So no, again, I want to repeat, we were able to have solar panels and green energy on 30 schools without using $1 of Measure BB, and still have a saving over a 20 years period of about $4.8 million.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Board Member Apodaca.
Thank you, Madam President. I wanted to actually say that I'm familiar with PFMG from before when they were Summits FMG, and I believe the founder was Jacob Lippa. And they've done a lot of work in Orange County, especially with the actual county of Orange. And I know I believe with Rancho Santiago Canyon College District, being native to Orange, I can tell you that they have a really good reputation. And two of the trustees actually that I spoke to from Rancho Santiago College had good things to say about them. I know they've been around since 2010, I believe, 2009, 2010. So I think this is a great thing, and I look forward to, obviously saving some money, but taking that and putting it towards other fun projects. That's all I have. Thank you, Madam President.
Board Member Long.
No comment.
Board Member Nishi.
Yes, I have quick questions. First, great work by Cummings. Very thorough. I like the way you guys did the RFP. I have to ask this question because I'm a lawyer. I see that for Artesia High School, the solar panels are out in the outfield. So if you hit a home run, the ball hits the panel and breaks it. Who pays for it?
Is that a coming question, or Ryan?
Ryan, can you answer that?
Yes, I'll take that. So thank you for the question. Actually, that was brought up during the discussions of where to place the arrays. And if something were like that like were to happen, PFMG would be on the hook to replace the panels and make any repairs that are necessary. But the panels are rated to take the impact of a foul ball. That is something that is common, and they commonly do place them near baseball fields. So that was brought up during the process, but it has been considered.
Great. So how much do we currently pay for electricity? I see 16.15 is what we're going to be paying. How much do we currently pay?
So that is the per kilowatt, right, Adam? So that's what we're gonna pay. I believe we are paying around, it's on average, it depends on the time of the day, because we purchase some energy from the city of Cerritos for the schools that in Cerritos and the rest from Edison. But on average, Adam, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it's about 18 cents. But you know, every year it's scheduled to go up, or you can anticipate that Edison gonna increase their fees, their rate, right? So we use a safe assumption of about 3%, but if they were to increase more, then it would be more saving. But I believe it's about 18 cents on average. So it's not really a number. You have to take the average, because it changes on during the time of day and the peak and all of that, and it depends on the different meters that you have with them. But on average, I believe it's about 18. So overall, over the 20 years, based on our usage, the savings is about $4.8 million in present dollars.
That's a 3% inflation rate you're presuming, right? So that's pretty good.
3% utility escalation, correct.
Okay, and what has utilities typically been escalating in the past? About the same percentage?
Right, so we had that discussion internally, and there's several white papers that say 4% is a realistic estimation. I think we can all safely say that given some of the liabilities that we've experienced with wildfires over the last 5 years, that 4% is probably going to be underrepresented. So for the purpose of this exercise, we wanted to be conservative in the estimate and make sure that we were guaranteeing a savings for the district in the long term, and so we went with a lower utility escalation factor.
So 4.8 million is a conservative number. That's the lowest it probably will be.
Right, and that's in today's dollars. So in totality, the district will save more than that when you do the aggregate of those dollars over 20 years, but that's if you're discounting it back to 2020 dollars, yes.
Right, so that's actually really good. And this will cover all of our energy needs?
So the way that it works is the utility won't allow you to build 100%, nor do you want to. Over the years, you'll change out air conditioning and you'll change out lighting at some point down the road over the next 20 years. So you're going to have some float down in terms of your consumption. And so what you do is you build up to about 85 to 90% of your total consumption. And that gives you a buffer so that if you have a year where you have overproduction, you have a year that's sunnier than a normal year, you'll be producing more than that 90% and you're not exceeding your total consumption. If you have a year that's under that, it's okay. You're purchasing from the utility company, but it's around 85 to 90% is the estimated value there.
So we're still buying some discounted electricity from Cerritos?
That is correct.
Okay, and that's actually pretty wise anyway. You don't want to be 100% on that. And then later on, if we wanted to, we could increase our capacity if our needs became more.
Right? In theory, you could. I mean, realistically, what's going to happen is you're going to have, increased devices that get added onto your facilities, and then you have decreased efficiencies. So we're not projecting massive increases in consumption over the years. It's going to be the other direction. But what you do have is with these systems, they naturally have degradation in them. So you kind of have a correlation between your consumption coming down slowly over the years, as well as the degradation of the system coming down over the years.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's all. Good idea.
Board member Say.
Hi, thank you, Brian. I have one question. I know the solar energy is radiate light and then heat from the sun. My question is, when you install the place, you mentioned about shade, you mentioned about the parking area. So we might not, the installed place is not always inside the playground area. I mean, as a shade. Sometimes depends on what the sun, the location is. So every school may not different. Well, we're going to install all the same area in the school area rather than outside, like the parking lot. Some place maybe parking lot, some place maybe in the school. So what is the plan is?
So our goal was to provide as much shade as possible on the campuses and also have, as Adam mentioned, north and south facing arrays to maximize efficiency. So I believe we do have shade shelters to an extent at every campus.
Right.
It's not exclusively shade, as you know, that may not have fit in the location or had the greatest capacity for solar power. So some of it will be in the parking lot, but every site should have, you know, at some extent, shade shelters.
So some will be in the parking lot, some will be the inside the school. Is that what you said?
Correct.
We're not gonna have unified everything the same inside. Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay, well, benefit of going last is that a lot of the questions get answered. I guess just the one, and you probably already answered this, but there will be upkeep, right? Because I did do a little research on my own, and a lot of this is expected to have a life expectancy of about 20 to 30 years. So throughout the years, the company would be responsible to, like somebody said, if something breaks or, you know, to ensure that this is going to be something we're going to make use of.
Yes.
Correct. Yeah.
There is a maintenance plan that is included with this contract. So BFMG Solar will be maintaining the panels and ensuring that they are producing as promised. And there is guarantees in our contract for that production. And then also if there is any damage to them, even aesthetically, if the paint starts peeling, we have provisions in our contract to ensure that those things are taken care of and maintained.
Well, thank you. I know that we all appreciate being, you know, as environmentally friendly as possible. Okay, with that, roll call, please. Well, actually, no. Do we have any public comments or on this item, Madam Clerk?
Madam President, there is none. There's none.
Okay, thank you. Roll call, Danielle.
Dr. Apodaca,
Yes.
Mr. Law,
Yes.
Mrs. Mendoza,
Yes.
Mr. Nishi,
Yes.
Dr. Rio,
Yes.
Mrs. Say,
Yes.
Mrs. Yu.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you, Danielle. At this time, we'll move on to an informational item, Quarterly Williams Settlement Compliance Report for January through September 2020. Dr. Su.
Thank you very much, President Rios. This is the compliance report that's required. It starts in the third quarter, January 1 to March 31st, the fourth quarter, which is April to June 30th, and the first quarter of this school year, which is July 1st to September 30th of 2020. Again, there were no complaints regarding any of our instructional materials, our facilities, or any of our misassigned teachers. Thank you.
Great. At this time, we'll go to board members' reports, and I will flip the order. So we will start with board members Say.
You are muted, Sophie. Unmute yourself.
Now for this time, Dr. Rios.
Okay, board member Nishi.
So I'm very happy about the teachers providing us that additional option. Like I said, I know it's really disheartening to see those playgrounds out there not being used. I mean, the principals are crying because they see these beautiful playgrounds and they have things put around them. And, you know, I hate that. It feels like a waste, but those playgrounds will be there when the kids come back. And, you know, we'll do it as soon as we can safely bring them back, not just educationally, but also in every single way. So yeah, it kills me to see those empty playgrounds. I work so hard for that stuff, and It's not coming, and the science buildings are going to come, and they're going to come in the future. So that's going to be great. And this is just round one. We have a whole bunch of more additional rounds on this facilities improvement. So it hasn't reached your school yet. I get it. It'll get there. We're working on it. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, Board Member Law. I don't see Maynard. Okay, Board Member Apodaca.
Thank you, Madam President. So I wanted to say thanks again to everybody for being so patient as we as a district navigate through what's obviously a global pandemic. And I also wanted to thank all of you who went out and actually voted, those voting for the very first time, and those who are veterans to the voting booth. And I did want to request briefly from staff if we can either have it by tomorrow if it's too short notice, or end of the week, or by next Thursday. We did mention the BB funds tonight. However, I would like just kind of a recap or an update with what we've done overall in recent conversations with stakeholders, specifically with parents and teachers. It has come up that even going to a hybrid model or fully in-person model, what are our students coming back to? So obviously, retrofitting it for with plexiglass and hand washing stations, et cetera, is important. But particularly, I can think of a few schools, if they're coming back to furniture that's maybe old or unsafe, the least of my worries would be the plexiglass. It would be whether or not the seat that those children are sitting in for 6 to 8 hours a day is safe and comfortable. And that's all I have. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you.
Could you?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. It was a very informative presentation tonight, and I want to encourage the public to continue to engage with us and give us your feedback. I know the surveys are out there, and the survey is very helpful to know, and but it would be very helpful if you have concerns to reach out to board members or district office to let us know how, if you have any suggestions or feedbacks. But I know that having a over 74% satisfied with a virtual, I would like to not waste the resources exploring too much. But if we're good at what we're doing, keep at it, and let's wait and see how other districts are doing. Yeah, so thank you very much.
Great. Vice President Mendoza.
Thank you, Madam President. Yeah, I just wanted to touch on the conversation we had about returning to schools. We know that nothing replaces face-to-face instruction. That's why we are planning to go back, because one day we are going to go back, whether it be in January or in June, and we do need to be prepared. I work for one of the largest districts. At our district, we are already starting to test teachers and staff members to go back and starting to make a baseline. And the reason we're doing that is to make our families feel comfortable. It's for trace seed. It's for knowledge, making sure that parents have what they need to make the best decision for their child and for themselves. And so I would like to make sure that as a board, we're doing that for our families. I love the COVID dashboard. We need to make sure that we inform our parents that if they do come to school, they're very safe, that we have signage, we have 6 feet apart. If it's the childcare center, that we have headphones for them, because if you've got 6 kids in a classroom and they're all trying to listen to their teacher and they're trying to answer questions, you're going to get feedback from all the other kids. So I think it's really important that you are taking every possible way to come back safely, because for some of our students, school is the only time they get a hot meal. It's the only time they may get, some attention, some love. And right now it's really difficult having to go 6, 7, 8 months without going into a classroom, being around their peers. I mean, I see it here at home with my own kids, right? We're missing that socialization, myself being around my colleagues and having those conversations and strategizing. It's really difficult in front of a laptop for 6-7 hours. So I am glad that we are taking steps in the hopes that one day we will be back on campus, whatever it looks like, whether it be hybrid, whether it be, you know, we have a vaccine, but we do need to be prepared. We have to take those steps, but it has to be with the input from our communities, because they will not come to us if they don't feel safe. So I'm really glad that you guys are working hard. I can't imagine the undertaking that you guys are doing right now. It's everything from cleaning, from PPE, stocking it up for when they do come. It's how many feet away do they stand? What's lunch gonna look like? What's recess gonna look like? What's peace? So I applaud you and I appreciate you guys for all the hard work that you're doing. It's not an easy task. I did like the conversation about looking to other school districts and seeing what they're doing, what's working for them, that we can implement into our school district. So again, and it takes each one of us. If we want to do this, you know, sooner than later, it takes each one of us to, you know, wash our hands, be careful around where we're going, not being out in public so often. I know it's difficult, but it takes each and every one of us to get to the point where we can have our students back in the classroom where they belong. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Yeah, comment kind of along the same lines. I'd really like us to get ahead of a lot of the issues that we may encounter when we do present this and have this to vote on December 15th. You know, some of us have kids in the district and we know how connected we are to our own child's schools. So I hope that this information can be disseminated at the school level so that parents have an opportunity to connect with people they feel comfortable, like their principals or their school leaders, to voice their concerns. We know that issues are different from one end of the district to the other. So, you know, instead of presenting it and, you know, hearing all of these public comments at December 15th, we welcome. It'd be nice to get ahead of it. And I encourage us to connect again and review the options, the possible options as we get closer and we have more information. I want to thank, I kind of wrote a little something. I want to thank everyone for joining us today. We are meeting on a Wednesday because it was election yesterday. And I ask that we join our country in exercising patience. Results will become final soon. I extend my congratulations to candidates for being brave enough to just run. I know it takes a lot of courage and a lot of work to do what we do. And whether you're running for the first time or you're running for re-election, I applaud you. I'm also really excited that, you know, it's been reported that we had the highest voter turnout ever. And I think that we can all appreciate, regardless of what party affiliation we have, that, you know, we all took time to participate in this democratic process. So with that, good night. But before that, I have a few announcements. Next regular board meeting will be Tuesday, November 17th at 7 p.m. It will be virtual. We do have some committee meetings coming up. Citizens Oversight Committee, Tuesday, November 10th, 6 p.m. Finance and Audit Board Advisory Committee, Thursday, November 19th, 6 p.m. Dates to remember, our community. It's very important that we note that November 11th, which is a Wednesday, is Veterans Day and our schools will be closed. It is an observed holiday. Fall break will occur on November 23rd to the 25th. That's usually a week, again, that we all close down for Thanksgiving. Oh, wait, why is that different? It says fall break November 23rd through the 27th, and then the Thanksgiving holiday is the 26th through the 27th. Okay, with that, Madam Clerk, are there any second public comments?
Madam President, there is none.
Okay, well, with that, let's celebrate that this meeting, I was ready to call for a break and then I'm like, well, maybe it's almost over. And yeah, it is. Good night, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Oh, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved, Sue. Second, Sue.
Okay, all in favor? I don't know.
Aye. Aye.
Yes.
Any opposed? No. Okay, good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Hi, you found the new bed.